All right. So I'm going to try taking you through this almost as if you were in my class. And then with this particular video, there's going to be little questions and things like that along the way to actually check in with you and see if you're understanding the material. Sound cool? No? Too bad. You have to do it. Okay. So I start off this activity by reminding you about literary theory and that critics use a variety of different types of theory to uncover meaning in texts that may otherwise not be apparent for readers. I don't want you to think of that as the idea that there are hidden meanings in literature. It's not so much that they're hidden, it's just that they may not be obvious to you the first time through you, or even second time through a text. Um, the different literary theories that we apply to texts are just our ways of applying a different perspective to a text and helping you discover the implicit meaning, which is not quite the same thing as a hidden meaning, because that makes it sound like it's a game. But it's the implicit meaning that's sort of hovering beneath the surface a little bit. Okay, so in Unit 1, you looked at 4 different types of literary criticism. There are lots of different types. This is just to give you, we picked 4 to give you kind of a taste of literary criticism. You looked at reader response, you looked at feminist, you looked at archetypal, and you looked at post-colonial. And I know post-colonial was really hard for the discussion that we had. It's going to make a lot more sense given some of the other texts we're doing in this unit. And we're going to start big. Go big or go home, right? We're going to start with Hamlet. And you're going to read the entire play. No, you're not going to read the entire play. That gets people really excited when I tell them that they're actually not reading the entire play in this activity, but you're not. You are going to look at a famous scene from Hamlet, because there's nothing in the curriculum document that says that you need to read the entire play. In fact, I'm looking for English teachers around here. There's nothing in the curriculum document that says you must read Shakespeare at all. So we're going to do it though anyway. I love Shakespeare, full disclaimer, and I love Hamlet. But we're just going to read one scene from it, and you're really going to dig deep into it. So I think that's worthwhile. Now, before you go any further with this activity, it says it's necessary for you to review your activity on literary theory. And that's Unit 1, Activity 4. Make sure you understand the key ideas and terminology used with each theory, as well as how to use each theory to analyze a text. If you have any questions at this point, please talk to me. So I'm going to put like a question in here to check in with you. What I did do to kind of help you out a little bit is I've given you a chart with links to sort of key terms. I'm looking at, these should all be hyperlinks, and they're not all showing up as hyperlinks. That's interesting. Okay. I will try to fix that because they should all be active hyperlinks, just like these ones. Okay, cool. Now, the next part of the activity has you go through some background on Hamlet. So Hamlet, in a nutshell, is a revenge tragedy. So in other words, Hamlet is this guy who was told that a bad thing happened to his father, and then he needs to avenge his father. Specifically, he's told that his father was murdered by his uncle, by Hamlet's uncle, who of course would be then Hamlet's brother. And then that gets really messy because Hamlet already didn't like his father, or Hamlet already didn't like his stepfather to begin with, who was also his uncle. And now he has a much more solid reason for hating his uncle. So not only is his uncle not a great guy, he's a murderer. He murdered his father, at least according to a ghost. He murdered his father. And so part of Hamlet's appeal is that he seems to be a very modern guy that you can relate to, because if you were told that your father, if you saw a ghost and the ghost told you that your father was murdered by your uncle, who's now married to your mother, how would you respond? Like, take a couple minutes to think about that. How would you react to that? And then think about how Hamlet might react. So Hamlet is a product of the Renaissance. And And he's an educated man. So he's sort of this mixture of, the religious beliefs and supernatural beliefs that people would have had during that time period. So people did believe in ghosts. They believed that the devil was actively at work in the world trying to tempt people to do bad things. They had really strong beliefs and opinions about the social hierarchy that existed in the world, and that was set down by God, and they didn't question it. But at the same time, Hamlet is an educated man, and he's been going to university, and so we're at the Renaissance where these new beliefs and ideas about science and how the world works are coming about. So he's got all these conflicting ideas within him, and that makes it very difficult for him to just go and take revenge, because you would think, this is one of the things people always ask, why doesn't Hamlet just kill his uncle Claudius? Why doesn't he take revenge? Well, ask yourself this: would you? If a ghost told you what this ghost told Hamlet, would you just go out and kill your uncle? Maybe some of you are, and I'm not sure I want to hang out with you if that's the case. But I'm sure the rest of you would feel very conflicted about that, just as I would. Okay. Now, I've given you a link here to a summary, and I do encourage you to read the summary. It's written in pretty student-friendly language. It'll make it pretty clear for you. I've given you some interesting facts about Hamlet. And then there's required reading. And it says here, you need to read this passage several times. I am not kidding here. Please don't skip to the assignment. Read this several times. The first time you read it silently as you would with most texts. So I'll sit here now while you read. I'm just kidding. I'm not actually going to do that. It's weird though, because I wonder if this works for you, because when I click on these words while I'm making this video, the definitions, oh, there we go. If I hover, it works. Okay. Don't click. Hover. If you hover, the explanation of what the word is comes up. And so that is the same for this one. Don't click on this, but hover over it. It gives you the explanation of the term. It's just that these ones will link you to something that requires a little bit more explanation, right? But if I hover over fox, it tells me that the fox is often a trickster figure, neither good nor bad. And then same thing with when you're reading Hamlet. Like if you're reading along and Polonius says, he will come straight. Like, what does that mean? He will come straight. Hover over it. Oh, it means he's going to come immediately. Okay, so there you go. Tell him his pranks have been too broad to bear with. And if you basically have a rough idea of what that means, you don't need to hover over this. But if you're not sure, by pranks, it's Hamlet's been acting crazy. And they've just been gone on too long. Pray you be round with him. Use the plainest language possible. Anyway, so the first time you read through, I want you to read it through. Just read it. Read it silently like you would read a book. Okay? Now, the next time you read it, though, so we're going to read it a second time. Actually, I guess I tell you what to do at the end of that. Okay. The second time you read it, I want you to imagine if you were directing the two actors performing this passage, where would you slow down or speed up? Where would you pause for emphasis? Are there any lines that could be read with different emotions? For example, when Hamlet says, I must be cruel only to be kind, he could say it in a quiet, sympathetic tone, and that would have a totally different impression than if he said it in a mocking tone. Think about what that would be. The way that the actors perform the text will change the audience's interpretation of the text, and that's why, quite frankly, I have a problem with students' first interaction with a play by Shakespeare being the written text. Because it was never meant to be read. It was meant to be watched. It was meant to be performed on a stage with actors and, attractive lighting and set pieces. So I want you to think about it like a director. Consider that a director might apply a particular theory to the text and that would change the way that actors emphasize certain words. So for example, how might a director ask the actress playing Gertrude to say certain lines if he or she wanted to apply a feminist lens to the play? So the second time you read this, I want you to read it out loud. Try using different voice or an intonation for a character. If you've got a friend around, maybe you try taking one role and have your friend take the other role. That would really help. It helps bring the scene alive for you. Okay. Then I think I have to fix these because I suspect these videos don't work anymore. Yeah. So I'm going to fix that video for you so that you have a different version that you can watch. And I've got those somewhere. And what you're going to do after that, so you're going to watch two different film versions, and when you're working on this, you're going to have the updated versions. You're going to have two different film versions of Hamlet. This one works. It's just the first one that doesn't, but I'll fix it. Then you go to the assignment area and complete assignment 1. So you basically read the scene 3 times at this point. And then here's what you're going to do. So let's go to the assignment page. It's the assignment page. Okay, there we go. You've got a discussion. So what I want you to do now that you've read the passage from Hamlet several times, you're going to analyze the text from 3 different perspectives using this graphic organizer. Boom. Looks like this. Okay. So not all theories yield rich interpretations. As such, you only need to analyze the text from 3 of the 4 perspectives provided. You decide. You don't need to do all 4. Pick 3. Personally, I would do reader response, archetypal, and feminist. Post-colonial would be very tough to do. Okay? When I say evidence from the text, including parenthetical citation, this is how you cite a scene from a play. Can I edit this? Here we go. So let's say I have the lines. So we are, that definitely looks like Shakespearean language. We already know it's in Act 3, Scene 4. So I go 3, oops, they should be capitals, 3, 4, those are Roman numerals. And let's say it was line 25 to 35 that I'm citing. That's pretty long. I wouldn't do that. 25 to 26. Okay? Period. That's how I cite it. All right? Now, alternatively, you can do this. You can go 3.4 and then the numbers. So if you don't like Roman numerals, you can do it this way too. That's how you cite it. And then for analysis, what does this theory reveal about the text that you might not otherwise notice? So I might say something like, if I'm applying reader response, I'm going to say something like this. When Hamlet is mocking his mother, I think about being a teenager. Like, pretend this is a specific line here where Hamlet's mocking his mother. Teenager and arguing with my mother. I wouldn't talk to my mother like that now as a 39-year-old woman, which makes me think is pretty immature. Okay? Now, that's probably not the only thing I'm going to write down. I'm going to probably pick, I don't know, 3, let's say 3 examples from this passage and look at it from a reader response point of view. So I'll pick 3 examples, analyze it, then I'll move on to archetypal, pick 3 examples, analyze it, then I'll pick feminist, do 3 examples and analyze it. You can do more than 3. I just wouldn't do much less than 3 because if you do any fewer, it should be fewer, not less. Fewer than 3 examples for each of the theories, you're not really doing a good job analyzing it from that particular perspective. Okay, let's get rid of that. No, I don't want to save it. Okay. And then for assignment 2, here's what you have to do. So, you're sharing that graphic organizer with the discussion. And then once you've gotten feedback from your classmates, or for feedback from your classmates, comment on 2 other posts you're providing feedback. Look for similarities and differences in interpretation. And then assignment 2, you're doing this. I have given you 2 different essays, and those are in the content. So if you go back to content, which I'm not going to do right now, You choose which one you want to read, okay? And for whichever essay that you've read, and just so you know, one of them is, I think, archetypal and one is feminist. You need to identify the author's thesis. You need to talk about why it was convincing. If there was nothing convincing, you can argue that too. Make sure you're providing examples. And then using one example, identify how the author used a direct quotation. So what am I asking you to do here? Why am I asking you to do this? Because I want you to understand that these are academic essays. So these are written at the post-secondary level. And the way that grad students and professors write essays is not the way that you were taught to write essays in high school. Okay, so, and I want you to start to get that idea into your heads that you are probably going to see a difference between the way that these authors are writing essays and the way that you've been taught to read an essay. So when I ask you, is there anything confusing? Or if I ask you, let me just see, do you notice anything about the way in which this essay was written that seems to contradict essay rules you've been taught in the past? There will be stuff in there. So don't say, no, I didn't see anything. Look harder. I'm going to end the lesson here. And I really hope that this adds something to your experience of the online environment, and that it gets you to focus more on working your way through the content and not jumping immediately to the assignment.